What's going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be checking out two legendary guitars from Gibson, an es-335 and a Les Paul. Okay, so first up we have the Gibson es-335. This was originally introduced in 1958. It's remained relatively unchanged ever since its inception. The only notable changes happened in '63, which is what this guitar is a reissue of, when they switched over to nylon saddles in the bridge, a slightly pointier horn design. Before that they were a little bit rounder, and they're what are affectionately now known as the Mickey Mouse ears. These ones are a little pointier. In '62 they switched over to the block inlay versus the dot, which you'd find up through '61. And originally in 1958, the neck didn't have any binding, but I think somewhere between '58 and '59, they started putting binding on the neck. In early 1965, they changed the nut width from the very comfortable 1 11/16 that we all associate with Gibson guitars to a very skinny 1 9/16, which doesn't sound like a big change, but it's substantially different. That's why the value of 1965 guitars onward are considerably less than the 335s from pre-1965. This guitar that I'm playing here today is a 1963 reissue guitar from 2013. It's the anniversary model, and it's from Gibson Memphis, and it's just a stellar guitar. So that brings us to the Les Paul. The Gibson Les Paul was introduced in 1952. It's had a bit of an interesting history. When it was first introduced, it had two P90 pickups here, which are kind of big single coil pickups. They're really fat sounding, quite a bit different from a humbucker, which has the two stacked single coils inside. It was also originally designed with a trapeze tailpiece and no tunematic bridge. Sometime in 1953, they switched over to a single stop bar tailpiece, which had this funny sideways angle to it. It kind of looked like a crooked mustache, in my opinion. A guitar like that can most famously be seen nowadays in Jimmy Vivino's hands. I think he said his number one is a 53. Freddie King was holding one of those guitars on the cover of one of his early records. That's the record that Eric Clapton famously saw and wanted to emulate, so it's what made him get a Les Paul in the first place. Now, unfortunately for him, but fortunately for the rest of us, he couldn't get the one with the two P90s like Freddie had. He could only find the one with the two humbuckers and the tunematic bridge. And that's the tone that we all associate with the early Clapton stuff. So kind of a happy accident. Now in '55, they still pretty much look the same, and in 1956, they still had the P90s, but they debuted the stop bar and the tunematic bridge for greater intonation. In 1957, they famously debuted their humbucking pickups by Ted McCarty. They were called that because they literally did just that. They bucked the hum that came from the single coil pickups leading up until that point. They did that by putting two smaller single coil pickups stacked next to each other and by flipping one of them. Now all Gibson Les Pauls up through '57 were a gold color like this. The story there is that Les Paul thought that if it was gold it would look more expensive. And I guess he's not wrong. In any case, it became one of their classic colors. So. Then in late '57, early '58, they introduced the Cherry Burst color. '59 is the famous year, obviously, from Eric Clapton, Jimmy Page, Mike Bloomfield. Those are most notably known for their flame top and Cherry Burst. In 1960, they stayed pretty much the same. The cherry color got a little more tomatoey looking, and the neck got a little bit thinner, which was starting to be the trend. And then some weird stuff happened. Other than the famous players that played them, the Gibson Les Paul was not a popular guitar. It was completely redesigned in '61 to the design that we now know as the Gibson SG. They didn't call it the SG at the time, they called it the Les Paul model. I personally think they were trying to capitalize on popular double-cut designs of the time, like the Stratocaster, or even the popularity of their es-335. But with that guitar, they brought it to Les Paul himself, and they said, hey, this is what we want to do with the guitar. And the story goes that he absolutely hated it, and he said, take my name off this guitar. And that's how the Gibson SG was born. Now in the early '60s, with the Les Paul completely discontinued from Gibson, guys like Eric Clapton, Jimmy Page, Mike Bloomfield, Peter Green, of course, they all picked up Les Pauls and found a new voice for them and started playing them in a very high profile way. The popularity of the guitars began to rise again, and in '68, Gibson decided to start making them again. All right guys, so I think I've talked enough for now, so why don't we plug them in and hear how they sound. I'm going to be playing straight into my 1966 Deluxe Reverb with a WGS ET65 speaker, a Lava retro coil cable, straight into the guitar. no pedals in the signal. I'm recording with a Shure SM57 microphone going direct into my Zoom H4n handy recorder. Alright guys, so there you have it. Two legendary guitars from Gibson back to back. Hopefully you could hear a difference between the two of them. I know I could. I could never choose a favorite between the two of them. They're both just so awesome. The 335 is known for its versatility. I think the Les Paul is just as versatile. But if you had to pick just one, let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much again for checking out my channel, and if you like this video and you want to see more, please hit the subscribe button below. I've also got some affiliate links down there if you'd like to check out some of the gear I played here today. We'll see you next time. But till then, I'm Mike Chandler, and this has been Mike Chandler on Guitar.